Chadi Jamuna Tira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kanya Bihari Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Brajacanaranjana Yasodanandana Brajacanaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachadi Jamuna Tira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivijagacharya Astatarasata Srimati's Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavarinda Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Gaur Pimanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. This morning we have a very special and very important section of these prayers, important in the broader sense about the process of bhakti, and through the medium of devotional service and hearing from great authorities like Prahlada, how to understand the nature of the person that we're trying to become surrendered to, the personality of Godhead. Perhaps you remember from yesterday evening, text 24, there was a request by Prahlada, Nija Britya Parshadam. So he was requesting the association of Pritya, your beloved servant. That's Narada. That was his request. I don't want this, that, the other thing. No, thank you. And here's why. This is what I want. So it's his mood, or as we heard the very first evening and the next morning, Prabhupada saying that Prahlada came to teach the mode of devotional service. So it's essential for the mode of devotional service, and now it's expanded in this section. We'll be covering verses 26 through 29. And how does one, well, three things. How does one qualify for mercy? Bhakti. Or, say it differently, how one regards the personality of Godhead qualifies one. Proportionate to, the language that we'll hear, is one's submission and service. It's like the verse of Bhagavad Gita. Yayatamam prapadyante tang sajaiva bhajam yaham. Bhajam yaham. As they bhajami, as they worship me, or engage in my service, more specifically, bhaj, as they engage, as they have regard for me, all living entities, the Hiranyakashipus, all the way up to the Prahlads, and everybody in between, as they regard for me, I reciprocate. The message of this section is the Lord is impartial. Everyone's eligible for his mercy. Everyone receives his mercy because he's merciful. It's his nature, and that's the person who we're serving. And so how does one get, there was a question yesterday, how does one get special mercy? Special mercy of Prahlad, despite his stated disqualification, he's getting special mercy. And the special mercy is there because of his devotion. He got the devotion because of this Nija Britya Parshvam, or the language that's being used in this section is Tava Britya Sevam. So, this is our topic, this section. How is it that, on the one hand, Nrsingadev kills Hiranyakashipu, and on the other hand, he gives his benediction to Prahlad? Looks like he's partial. And that's one of the arguments of Hiranyakashipu, when after the death of his brother, Hiranyaksha, because Lord Varaha killed Hiranyaksha. So at the funeral, he pacifies the relatives and then says, this so-called Vishnu is supposed to be impartial, but look what he did. So I'm going to get him. I make a vow, I'm going to destroy Vishnu. So looks like he's partial. Looks like he's partial. How is it that he's impartial when it looks like he's partial? It's one of the mysteries that Prahlada is going to explore or reveal. So there's 4 verses. The first one is 26, Prahlada stating his unprecedented mercy, never before received by any other devotee, and yet I'm so unqualified. Then 27, what made him qualified? What invited that special mercy that no one else received? Well, it's the language is in proportion to one's service and surrender. The impartial and benedictory nature of the Supreme Lord flows proportionate to one's service and surrender. So one who surrenders like Prahlad surrenders receives mercy even more than the goddess of fortune, which is pretty amazing. So what is that? The next is Tava Britya Sevam. He has this spirit. This is the secret. And now it's being disclosed, of devotional service. Tava Britya Sevam. Britya refers to Narada. Britya is the humble servant. Tava Britya, your humble servant, Narada, Sevam. That's Prahlad. That's his heart. And there's nothing else. He doesn't want something from Narada. He doesn't want something from Lord Nrsimhadev. He only wants one thing. And because of that very strong and singular focus, he got special mercy. So there was some question yesterday of how do we know what's the barometer or the measure for pleasing. It's and the service doesn't just mean, you cook or clean or do some physical service. Those things are nice. But most important is Prahlad, heard the message of bhakti, and he brought the message of bhakti in and he lived it without any compromise, without any circumstance creating or destroying. It wasn't circumstantial. It wasn't material based. It was totally from the heart, submission to the personality of Godhead, rendering service unto him. And it's because of that Prahlad apparently received special mercy. And then Prahlad says, this is just preview, Prahlad says, I accept that the mercy that you gave to me and the mercy that you gave to my father by killing him was to satisfy and fulfill the desires of your devotees, Lord Brahma, and the demigods. And there isn't anything else. You don't do anything else except you're Bhaktavatsala. You're very kind to your devotee. Now he's putting Lord Brahma and the demigods above himself. If you remember, we heard this term yesterday. Besides Bhaktavatsala, Kripana Vatsala, Kripana, Brahmana Kripana, the miserly person. The Supreme Lord is equally kind to the miserly person. He just reciprocates according to their regard for him. Like, here's Prabhupada's explanation in a general sense, not specific to this. If someone says, I'm your enemy, I see you as my enemy, okay, I'll be your enemy. He doesn't feel inimical. He feels if one is harassing the devotee, we heard in the very beginning, he feels angry and he feels dvesha. But he's just reciprocating with their position. And then another says, I want to be your devotee. Okay. In that sense, he's equal. But it looks like and it feels like, and because one is approaching him in devotion, he shows affection. We're going to hear it. And those who are inimical to him, he shows anger and another. But from his heart or his position, he's equal. It's a mystery. Because one can look at it this way and one can look at it that way. But the higher sense is he's equal to everyone. So that's what that mystery is being discussed in these 4 verses that we'll be discussing this morning. Somoham sarvabhuteshu. That comes from Bhagavad Gita. Sama is equal. Aham, I'm equal. Sarvabhuteshu, all living entities. I'm equal to everyone. So, Vishwanath, our beloved predecessor, Acharya, writes in this way, how is this? You will liberate the devotees and bring them to you, but you will not do this for the non-devotees. Then do you, the Supreme Lord, not show prejudice in the form of preference and repulsion? And then the answer is no, I'm not partial. And he refers to the Bhagavad Gita verse, Samoham Sarvabhuteshu. I envy no one. Nor am I partial to anyone. Now take notice, the painting that illustrates shows Paramatma. We'll note it because we'll make reference to it shortly. He's in the heart of everyone. He's not partial to anyone. I'm equal to all. But apparently contradictory. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me. And I am also a friend to him. Looks partial. In the purport of this verse, well, text 29 of this section, rain. The Lord is compared to rain. There's another comparison. So the Lord provides everyone with a generous supply of the necessities of life. He is just like a cloud that pours rain all over, regardless of whether it falls on rock, land, or water. The cloud is impartial, and the rain falling is similarly impartial. Krishna is compared to rain. Trees absorb rainwater and then grow and produce fruits. Some trees produce bitter fruits and others produce sweet ones. Does this mean that the rain is partial? No. Similarly, regardless of a living entity's situation, Krishna nourishes everyone equally. That's his explanation from a lecture on that verse. Then, in the purport of text 29 is another comparison. That's this relation between Krishna and his devotee, where Krishna is compared to a diamond and the devotee to a gold ring, and they complement one another. Here is Prabhupada's explanation. When a diamond is set in a golden ring, it looks very nice. The gold is glorified. And at the same time, the diamond is glorified. The Lord and the living entity eternally glitter. And when a living entity becomes inclined to the service of the Supreme Lord, he looks like gold. The Lord is a diamond. And so this combination is very nice. Very nice. Looks like partiality. This verse 29 is the Bhaktavatsala. But Krishna, the diamond Krishna, likes decorating the gold ornament, the gold ring or whatever. So Krishna likes. And the devotee likes to be in service to Krishna. So if Krishna likes, that's fine with him, whatever Krishna likes. Very interesting conception. I imagine there'll be some discussion about this. Krishna is impartially partial. And this is our Acharyas describing his impartiality is his Paramatma function. And Paramatma encourages everyone to become the devotee. And some say no. Some say, let me think about it. Some say yes. And then those who say yes, then they are associating with the Bhagavan feature, and Krishna in his Bhagavan feature reciprocates with the love of the devotee in his capacity as Bhagavan. Really nice. I like it. So those are already two previews of what we're going to be discussing, and now we're going to be discussing, starting with text 26. Unprecedented mercy was given to Prahlada. He's going to state, despite his disqualification, specifically of birth in a demoniac family. So we see these words, Tavano Kampa. Tavano Kampa. That's his causeless mercy. And this Padma Kara Prasada, he's saying even Shri, the goddess of fortune, never received this unprecedented mercy. You placed your hand, Padma Kara Prasad, upon my head. Translation. O my Lord, O Supreme, because I was born in a family full of hellish material qualities of passion and ignorance, what is my position? And what is to be said of your causeless mercy, which was never offered even to Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, or the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi? You never put your lotus hand upon their heads. She's at his feet, massaging his feet. You placed your hand upon my head. Unprecedented mercy. Prabhupada's explanation. The causeless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead may be bestowed upon anyone, regardless of his position in the material world. It's a nice illustration. These are the 4 types of pious people, Bhagavad Gita, that render service to Krishna. He can bestow his mercy upon anyone. Those who are distressed, those who are in search of wealth, those who are inquisitive, those who are seeking knowledge, they engage in service. And then there's the mature devotee, Draupadi, and Krishna shows himself. He doesn't just give his mercy and here's some opportunity for some service. He protected her because in proportion to her service and submission. Everyone is eligible to worship the Supreme Lord, irrespective of his material position. Now, it's part of the theme of the very special position of bhakti. It's a theme in all of his prayers. He's a bhakta, and he understands how he became a bhakti. He understands the power of bhakti to relieve one from material contamination, from the modes of nature, the insufficiency that's there because of his low birth, and take away miseries. And now it's on the positive side, it's the impetus, the magnet that draws the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Bhakti. And to explain that, in the purport, Prabhupada refers to 1426 Bhagavad Gita. Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan. One transcends the gunas. And Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. At once, bhakti is from the liberated platform. You engage in devotional service. Vyabhichari bhakti. Avyabhichari bhakti is special. Undivided. Vyabhichari and avyabhichari. Undivided. Fixed. In all circumstances, one is beyond the modes of nature. And one is in contact with the position of Brahman. So, Prabhupada writes, Prahlada Maharaj, being a great devotee, thought, the body born of his father to be born of passion and ignorance, but because Prahlad was fully engaged in the service of the Lord, his body did not belong to the material world. Again, it's not like he got an F in his exam. He messed up and thought because his body is born in a demonic family, it stays that way. He understands the distinction. But because he's a devotee, this humility is, this is my disqualification, and they let me list my disqualifications. But in fact, the birth of Prahlad and the passion and ignorance influence of his father was totally dismissed by his bhakti and his service and submission. Prabhupada continues, the so-called material bodies of devotees who fully engage this avyabhichari bhakti in the devotional service of the Lord, being constantly in the fire of spiritual life, have nothing to do with matter. Now, we heard it previously, and now it's being said again. Nothing to do with matter. Remember? Material contamination, gone. We heard about nirvana. We heard Prabhupada's explanation that the chanting of the holy name can bring us to the position where the fire of material existence, bhava, not bhava, but bhava, the suffering, the misery, bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam. The fire of material existence is gone, material cessation. So that's who have no longer anything to do with matter, those that are engaged in chanting and devotional service in this avyabhichari bhakti position, their bodies they don't act in a material way anymore. They're spiritualized. And the illustration of this graphically is interesting. I don't know if I ever saw a cannonball before, but there's some cannonballs. And cannonballs in contact with fire, they become fire. Not like fire, but fire. Although it's iron, it becomes fire. The common example that Prabhupada would give, many, many times I heard, the goldsmith, the blacksmith. The blacksmith builds a fire and he puts the iron in the fire and it makes it red hot. And then the iron that's in the fire becomes fire. You touch the iron that's been in the fire to some grass or some leaves or some paper. It's fire. No longer just an iron rod or, in this image here, cannonball. It's fire. Similarly, the spiritualized nature of one whose body is engaged, of course, it's not just body, mind, and soul, and words, and everything. This full immersion in service, conscious service to Krishna. The body becomes spiritualized. It acts in a spiritual way. Another nice example, very common, is electric wire. Electric wire isn't electric, but it can conduct electricity. When connected with the powerhouse, it delivers electricity. Although it's not electricity, it acts like electricity because of its being a good conductor. Similarly, the body of a living entity that's engaged in loving service to Krishna becomes fully spiritualized. And so that's this tadiya is a Sanskrit word that means paraphernalia. The paraphernalia, here there's paraphernalia of Srila Prabhupada. And, the garland he's wearing, and the hat that he's wearing, and the clothes that he's wearing, the shoes that he would wear. And it was common, I don't know if I've seen pictures where Prabhupada is wearing 2 watches. And he would regularly be given watches, and he'd take off the old one and give the new one. Give the old one to somebody and put on the new one, and then keep that for a while, then get another one and give the old one and keep. It's tadiya, it's paraphernalia. Or just like on the altar, the conch shell and the lamp, and not only the flower and the fire, but the article that's used in the worship of the deity. It's spiritualized. Although it's brass or wood or whatever it is, in service to Krishna, it acts in a spiritual way. So we touch the fire and smell the incense and the flower and sprinkle the water, and it acts to spiritualize. Charanamrita, it acts to spiritualize. Prasadam. It's not ordinary. It's not like vegetarian. It's prasadam. Matter can act spiritually if engaged in service to Krishna. It's a mystery for non-devotees. It is the delight for the devotees. Just one more illustration of this. The spiritualizing of something material. It comes in Canto 10, very, very, very highly philosophical, elaborate discussion on this topic, where after hearing the full 9 cantos and then the full 10th canto of Krishna's pastimes, Maharaj Parikshit says, I'm ready. Let that mystical snake bird or whatever it is that's supposed to kill me, let it come. My consciousness is completely absorbed in Krishna. And because my consciousness is absorbed in Krishna, I'm ready to go to Krishna. I'm with Krishna. Then, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but I have a doubt. How do you have a doubt when you're in that position? I have a doubt. What's that? How did I get here? Because the instrument that was used was my ear, and the instrument that was used from your side is your tongue, and they're both material. So how does something material get you to something spiritual? How's that? How did it happen? And Chukadeva Goswami says, great question. Such a great question. Long, long ago, sages were discussing this question. And when they were discussing this question, long, long ago, they referred to another discussion. In other words, it's a classic question. And it's the personified Vedas and the 4 Kumaras having a little powwow about this question. And intensely philosophical. If you think Bhaktisiddhanta's writing is difficult, this is postgraduate. Very difficult. But the principle is everything comes from Krishna. And when something is used in service to Krishna, the spiritual quality is restored and therefore can act spiritually, although it's material. Material in the sense of not conscious energy, but it can act in a spiritualizing way because it's connected, the tongue and the ear and the body and flowers and lamps. And there's the philosophical, deeply profound philosophical explanation that has everything to do with the non-difference, which was discussed, and it's going to be discussed after breakfast again in Prahlada's prayers, the difference, non-difference philosophy of Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because of that non-difference feature, when used, it's the bhakti principle. The bhakti principle is so powerful, we take it for granted, kind of, but it's so powerful, it can completely transform matter to spirit. Once a reporter asked Prabhupada, Swamiji, what will happen if your movement is growing and growing and growing, and what if the whole world became Krishna conscious? He said, don't worry, it won't. But if it did, this place would then be Vaikuntha. The spiritual world. The material world becomes the spiritual world, or things that are material become spiritualized. It's in his teaching right here. So, bhakti is very important, Prabhupada writes. Anyone who engages in this avyabhichari bhakti, or continuous devotional service to the Lord, is situated in the spiritual world and has nothing to do with material qualities. So we're mixed devotees and we have something and something going on. So we should strive for the unmixed. And then we're in this world, but we're not of the world. It's not touching us. Until then, it's touching us less, or it's impacting the mind and our sensibilities, our feelings and emotions and our intelligence and everything else to some degree. But bhakti diminishes. So what's important? Bhakti is important, Prahlada's teaching us. Devotional service is so great that when it is offered, even by those born in low families, the Lord accepts it as being more valuable than the service offered by the goddess of fortune. I mean, that's big. So there's this next reference that ends the purport of this verse. Devotees enjoy life under any circumstances. Paratak, svatak, karmata. This is a reference of Madhvacharya. Paratak, svatak, and karmata. When the devotee is following activities instructed by others, acting himself, or even performing material activities, there's happiness in every aspect of life. This is this avyabhichari bhakti. It's the, it's the carrot. Now, maybe some of you are familiar with one of Prahlad Maharaja's answers when his father says, what's the best thing you've learned in school? These same terms, paratak, svatak. Prahlad says, my dear demoniac father, there's no way that a person like you can understand whether it's your own effort, under guidance of others, or combination of the two. You're not going to understand on your own. You won't be able to understand by the guidance of others, and even put the two together, you won't understand. He's so bhakti-less. He's so inimical. So I could say, but you won't understand. He's, Dad. You're not disrespectful. He's just being, very clear about reality. So again, this theme, the impartial and benedictory nature of the personality of Godhead. Here's the verse, and I've specifically highlighted this. Seva anurupam. Seva anurupam means according to one's desires. So that's how it's translated, but according to one's submission and service is how Prabhupada translates it or presents it in the purport. Seva anurupam. And paravara matir bhavato. He is describing, Prahlada is describing the thoughts of the personality of Godhead. Matir means he's considering everyone equally. paravara. And samsevaya sorataror ivate prasada. Taror, you are like a desire tree. And desire trees don't discriminate. You want this? Fine. You want that? Fine. It's another comparison like rain. But this case, the comparison is to like a desire tree. You don't consider who's high, who's low. You just, somebody wants this. The desire tree sees what somebody wants, and the desire tree supplies what somebody wants. So, translation. Unlike an ordinary living entity, my Lord, you do not discriminate between friends and enemies, the favorable and the unfavorable, because for you there is no conception of higher and lower. Meaning, this is this samoham sarvabhuteshu. You're equal to everyone. You don't consider this one's partial, you like this one, you don't like that one. That's not you. You regard everyone equally. Nonetheless, like a desire tree, exactly like a desire tree that delivers fruits according to one's desire and makes no distinction between lower and higher, similarly you offer benedictions according to one's level of service. That's the translation of the verse. Prabhupada's explanation is quoting Bhagavad Gita verse chapter 4, Ye yatam mam prapadyante. As one surrenders to me, I reward him accordingly. So he rewards Draupadi one way, Putana another way, and Shishupal another way. And now this looks like, whoa! Well, how's that a reward? But he's liberating him from his contamination and the reactions of his sinful deeds. Very sinful. And similarly Putana, long story. How Putana became Putana, long story. But he's just simply reciprocating. So Prabhupada writes, one's relationship with the Supreme Lord is in proportion to the surrender and the service. This phrase, seva anurupam, or seva anurupam, in proportion to the surrender and service one renders to the Lord. So, he's not partial. The living entity regard him according to their free will this way, that way, and he reciprocates, that's all. One's position is determined by one's desires. The Lord is not responsible for the higher or the lower grades of our existence. He doesn't regard higher or lower. We choose and we go up or down depending upon our desire. Another reference that says the same thing is Bhagavad Gita, 13:22. In Bhagavad Gita 13:22. Purusha prakriti stohi bhunkte prakriti jan gunan karanam guda sangosya sadasad yoni janmasu. By the way, those who registered will get copies of all this. Please register. We'd like you to get a copy of all this. And in that verse, keeping it simple, Purusha, that's the living entity imitating the position of the enjoyer of Prakriti. Purusha Prakriti sto, sta means being situated in. Prakriti sto he, certainly one who is a living entity situated in Prakriti. Bhunkte Prakriti. one trying to be the enjoyer of Prakriti, Jan Gunan, according to the modes of nature, that living entity then receives the corresponding sadasad yoni janmasu, the good fortune, ill fortune. We create our good fortune or ill fortune. Krishna is not partial. Oh yeah, you're going to be like that, I'm going to smack you. That's not Krishna. According to our regard for him, he reciprocates. Lovingly, we regard him, he reciprocates. That's what the next message is. Whoops. If one is interested in returning home back to Godhead, he can be promoted according to the demands of a particular devotee. He receives a result. So there's the external, internal energy, and even within the internal energy, there's variety. Within the external energy, there's variety. What's your favorite? Of course, it's not just moment to moment, it's a sustained series of moments, and cumulatively, our desires are what they are. So bhakti then is a cultivation. Anukul. We cultivate following perfected soul, following previous acharyas, teachers by example. We cultivate. Bhakti is a sort of cultivation, Prabhupada writes. So we cultivate. And then cumulatively, the desires that were misplaced become, in course of time, replaced with desire in relation to Krishna. That's our healthy, natural position. So Krishna is not responsible for that. We're responsible for that. Sadasad yoni janmasu. We create our good fortune, ill fortune. And he just reciprocates. And Prabhupada concludes the purport this way, making reference to the real solution is bhakti, Canto 2, akama, sarvakamo va mokshakam udaradi, or the translation here, whether one is without desire, the devotee, or desirous of all fruitive activities, or is after liberation, mokshakama, one should, with all efforts, try to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead for complete perfection, culminating in Krishna consciousness. Okay, we're halfway done. 26, 27. Here's 28. How do you get that focus on Krishna's service? And it comes from focus on serving the devotee of Krishna. That's Prahlada's teaching. Here's this phrase, kritvatma sat, surashina bhagavan grihitaha. It's his submission, saying, kritvatma sat surashina, this wonderful, merciful Narada Muni accepted me, and he gave me instructions how to. That was my fortune. And then I just said yes. And I did. And therefore, the last part, soham katam no visrajay tava brityasevam, tava brityasevam, tava brityasevam. It's my first duty to serve him. How could I leave him? That's translation. My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, because of my association with material desires one after another, I was gradually falling into a blind well full of snakes. Following the general populace, But your servant, Narada Muni, kindly accepted me as his disciple and instructed me how to achieve this transcendental position. That's where his good fortune came. And his good fortune, taken properly, resulted in the fortune of receiving the mercy of the personality of Godhead. Therefore, my first duty is to serve him. How could I leave his service? It's not like Lord Nrsingadeva is saying, okay, say goodbye, wave goodbye to Narada, and thanks a lot, see you later. Take that benediction. No, he's not asking that, but he's affirmatively saying, if you give me other stuff, I know you want to give me a benediction, and if I get other stuff, I'm going to get proud of stuff, and oh, I'm special. I can't do that. I can't do. I have to. I'm going to stay fixed in the service of your dear devotee. So the image here is Dhruva, but the same mood. Prabhupada refers to Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya's teachings. Gopi Bhartor Padakamalayur Dasa Anudas. One should serve the spiritual master first, and by his mercy one can approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead to serve the Lord, exactly as happened with Dhruva. Dhruva went searching for Lord Vishnu, couldn't find him. Narada came, here's how you can find him. Here's the mercy, the means of getting the mercy of the Lord through the mercy of Narada. Again, another reference, Prabhupada saying, writing. Elsewhere it is stated, Mahaprabhu said, Guru Krishna Prasadi Bhai Bhakti Lata Bija. What's that? One can achieve the seed of devotional service by the mercy of Guru, the spiritual master, and then by the mercy of Krishna. Shri Radha Shama Sundara Ki Jai. This is the secret of success, and it's also the secret to how the theme of the section. Unqualified person receives special mercy because he received the mercy of Narada. And what's the prompt for receiving the mercy of Narada? Causeless. No prompt is needed. Causeless mercy. Very mysterious. Because of this world, everything has a cause. So what's causeless? The mercy of the devotee is causeless. And then following that mercy of the devotee comes the mercy of Krishna. It's a deep science, and it's, well, of course, we've heard this regularly, but it's Prahlada's explaining it, and Prabhupada's wonderful purports are explaining it so nicely. Again, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur confirms, Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado. One should not attempt to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead by concoction. One must first be prepared to serve the spiritual master. And when one is qualified, he automatically is offered the platform of direct service to the Lord. But he's not seeing. Prahlada is already in that direct service. There he is face to face with the Lord's hand upon his head. But he doesn't want to bypass Narada. No way. No way. And then the last of this purport message. Whoops. From the verse, purport explains, Soham katam nu visrajay tava britya sevam. There we are. Tava britya sevam. How can I give up the service of my spiritual master, who has favored me in such a way that I am now able to see you face to face? Prahlad Maharaj prayed to the Lord that he might continue to engage in service to his spiritual master, Narada Muni. So here's Narada instructing Kayadu. We saw this image before. And Prahlad is within the womb of Kayadu. So he brought her to his ashram knowing that within her womb was a great devotee. So there was some merit already that Narada recognized. But then through instruction, he became a qualified devotee. And then in this middle picture, he received the direct darshan, look at that, darshan, of Lord Nrsingadev. And so over here on the right is little Prahlad wanting to garland Narada and worship him and sit at his feet and hear from him and become filled with devotion for the Supreme Lord and live his life in devotion to the Supreme Lord. So now comes Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's summary. This is paraphrasing what Lord Nrsingadev doesn't say, but you have said that service to me is the cause of my mercy to you. You excluded favoritism by the example of a desire tree. But what's the cause of this service? Here's the teaching, the cause of service. Following persons with concepts of high and low, filled with all desires, who have fallen in the material snake hole, I have also fallen by their association. I have become accepted by Narada, who has made me his own possession. So the Lord then thinks, let this jiva be mine. By force, Narada, let this jiva be mine. By force he has taken me by the hand, brought me near to him, taught me the king of mantras, and had me serve him, having fallen into the hole of samsara. I have now become your devotee. Without his mercy, this was not possible. How can I give up service to my guru, your servant? The karmis and gyanis, on attaining their goal, give up the sadhana. I cannot be like that on the path of bhakti. When the sadhana gives result, devotees who attained the Lord, such as Dhruva, still had the desire for sadhana, of associating with devotees and other processes of bhakti. That's one of them. Nice. So now the final verse for this morning. Emerging is this theme. How is all of this? This is Bhaktavatsala. He's Kripanavatsala and he's Bhaktavatsala, and they're equal because he's Vatsala. But he looked like special for the bhaktas because the bhaktas hold the Lord to be special to them. Here's the verse highlighted. Manye sva britya rishi vakyam. There's this word britya again. That's referring to Narada, his humble servant. I think Manye, Prahlad thinks, sva britya rishi vakyam ritam vidhatum. I think that both in saving me and in killing him, you have acted just to prove true the words of your devotee. So, my Lord, Ananta Pittur Vadascha, O unlimited reservoir of transcendental qualities, you have killed my father, Hiranyakashipu, and saved me from his sword, because he said, if there's any supreme controller other than me, let him save you. I shall now sever your head from your body. Dad. Woo. So you saved me from his sword, and you killed him. I think that both in saving me and killing him, you have acted just to prove true the words of your devotee, because the words of your devotee were to appeal to the Supreme Lord to protect the world from Hiranyakashipu, and so to fulfill the desire and the word of the demigods, you did. But you also fulfilled the words of Brahma, that you appeared in this particular form and did it in the way that you did it. You're Bhaktavatsala. You just reciprocate. Your thing, you reciprocate with your devotee, and there isn't anything else. Prabhupada writes, Narada Muni gave assurance to Prahlada that he would always be saved from the enemy's hands. So he kept the word of Narada. The killing of Hiranyakashipu and the saving of Prahlada were enacted simultaneously to prove the truthfulness of the Lord's devotee and the fidelity of the Lord himself to his own purpose. The Lord acts to satisfy the desires of his devotees. Otherwise, he has nothing to do. Another verse that Prabhupada often would quote, Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate, from the Upanishads. The Lord has nothing to do personally, Natasya karyam, for everything is done through his different potencies, parasya shaktir vivadaiva shruyate. So in all phases, creation, maintenance, and destruction, it's all going on by his potencies, but he says in Bhagavad Gita, I do, but I have nothing to do. It's another one of these Upanishadic mysteries, which the devotees understand. Vishwanath, once again. Since you are under the control of your devotee, your mercy to people simply follows the mercy of the devotee. You are not merciful to those who do not take shelter of the devotees. I am not an exception. By the request of your devotee, you are merciful to all. That's the teaching of this verse. I think you killed my father to make the words of Narada come true. When my mother prayed to Narada, he gave the blessing. Your son will create good fortune by destroying the demons. So the Sringadev was just upholding the word of Narada. Your son will create good fortune. So one can look at it, well, he was predicting what would happen. He looked into his crystal ball and did some astrology charts and said, this is what's going to happen. But another way of looking at it, the way the Prahlada is looking at it, is your devotee uttered something and you upheld the word of your devotee. I think you protected protected me, since my father, desiring to kill me, said, I will cut off your head. Just as you protected me from the snakes and elephants, it was not possible for him to kill me by his hand. You killed him. Though the Lord is equal everywhere, he has the quality of being controlled by his devotee, Narada. And our concluding message and slide. But when he personally does something, it is only to satisfy his devotees. Very much favors his devoted servants as Bhakta Vatsala. So This is the nature of who we're taking shelter of, or striving to take shelter of. Bhaktavatsala. He's merciful to his devotee and proportionate to the service. And proportionate to the service doesn't mean run around real fast and you get mercy, or be in a passionate mood and do lots of stuff. And it's nice to do lots of stuff, but that's not complete. Engage in performing your duties and always think of me. Like this question yesterday about the relationship between the mind and the soul. It starts with manmana. And then bhavamad bhakto. So where the mind goes is really important. It's Krishna's instruction, manmana. Prahlada's perfection, we know from Nectar of Devotion, is he was perfect in constant remembrance. And how do you have constant remembrance? You have to be attached. And that what you're attached to is what you remember. He was attached. And how did he get attached? From Narada. And the mood of his attachment was service. He wants to serve Narada. And with that wanting to serve Narada, he gets to serve the Supreme Lord. And through Narada's further instruction, how to serve the Supreme Lord. And for further instruction for the Supreme Lord, how to serve the Supreme Lord, because he has one interest, serving the Supreme Lord and his devotee. That's the package from unqualified to qualified. Like us, unqualified. I remember once Prabhupada said, and this was to his Western disciples, I know that some of you are thinking it's because of your past pious activities that you are now engaged in devotional service. It's not so. He said, I found you in some dark place, and I grabbed you by the hair, and I'm dragging you to devotional service. That's the reality. Now, many of you weren't Western born. You're Indian born, and so you're born in Punya Bhumi, and you have all this piety in your DNA. But without the association of our founder Acharya and his teachings and the bhakti process and the holy name and prasadam, deity worship, association of devotees that he's created all over the world. Somebody here knows that I go to China. So for their career, they have to go to China. And do you know somebody in such and such city? I say, yeah. Oh, then I can get some association and get some prasadam? Yeah. Now, before I started going to China, I didn't know. But there was a time when nobody in China knew anything about Krishna. Or if they thought they knew something about Krishna, it was wrong. But because of Prabhupada's mercy and giving his mercy to Tamal Krishna Maharaj, his surrendered soldier in general, the China mission started, and it's picking up steam, and there's devotees all over the place. Not enough. So we need more devotees and happier devotees everywhere. And we're meant to be instruments of both. But how do you get that? But by mercy of our founder Acharya and those who are carrying the mercy of our founder Acharya. That's the message. And then the mercy of Krishna flows. And then one becomes capable of doing something that you're otherwise not capable of. It's really wonderful, that profound, mysterious. Non-devotees think we're nuts. That's okay. We don't go, oh yeah, well, you're nuts. We don't do like that. You think we're brainwashed? Brains need to be washed. Yours included, my dear friend. And when the brains are washed, what do you have? You have Prahlada, and he's giving this whole inventory of what it's like, one's conscious mind, heart, words, choices, association, protection, everything. Through this science of bhakti, and he wants to give it. He's being told, we'll hear at the end, he's being told by Lord Nrsingadev, give this to others. Prabhupada said the same. Prabhupada said the same. Just end with this. One morning, it was hot, July, summer, at the Brooklyn Temple, and Prabhupada was speaking about, similar to Prahlada, speaking of himself in a humble way and appreciating the mercy that he received from Bhaktisiddhanta, saying, the mood was profound and emotional, that my spiritual master found me in some dark place. And by his mercy, he made me fortunate. It was emotional. And then he instructed me. Now that you have become fortunate, you take this to others and make them fortunate. And so I have come. Die, Prabhupada. And I have found you in some dark place. And I have made you fortunate. Die, Prabhupada. And now I am instructing you as my spiritual master instructed me. You go forward and make others fortunate. And the room just erupted. It was, drums and, Jai Prabhupada. So those are nice words. And then it needs to go inside. And then receive the words and live our lives accordingly. Not just go running around, but receive that good fortune, and then in turn, to our capacity, we extend that, what we have received, to others in a proper mood, not I'm going to go save the conditioned souls mode, but in the mode of Prahlada. Under the order to do so, we do so. We're carrying out instruction. We're the instrument of a great person. That's the qualification, being the instrument of a great person. And then it carries us beyond our limitations and shortcomings and fallibilities and all of those things. Bhaktavatsala. So, end with that and see if there's any discussion. Isn't it nice, these prayers of Prahlada? Do we have the microphone over here?
Guru Maharaj, in one of the slide, we saw like one can achieve the devotional service by...
One can do what?
One can achieve devotional service by the seed of bhakti.
Yeah, you like that
is
one?
by the cause of Guru and Krishna. And in another slide, we saw like the causeless mercy of the Lord is through devotional service. So which comes first?
Chicken and the egg question, huh? How does bhakti begin? That's your question.
Yes.
Association with one who's carrying bhakti. Now, it's something that's already within, but it needs to be awakened. And it's awakened through association with one who's carrying it. That's how it begins. Okay? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's answer.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you. These are really very beautiful verses. I have 2 points in my mind. In a slide where we were showing the importance of devotional service, importance of bhakti.
Many of them.
Yeah. And the statement there was that Lord accepts devotional service more than the service offered by Goddess of Fortune. Now I'm thinking we have already discussed that all these associates of the Lord are perfect, most perfect, more perfect.
Yeah.
And the goal of devotional service is prema, and they have already attained that position of prema.
Yeah.
And we are saying that devotional service pleases the Lord more.
I didn't say it, Prahlada said it. But go ahead.
But there is a comparison that...
Yes. Prahlada can say it. I'm not saying it. Two things. We, you and I, should be very careful about comparison because it can easily spill into offense. We should be very careful. On the other hand, we are enjoined as Madhyama Adhikaris to make distinctions. The Lord, the devotee, those who are not devotee but not inimical, and the inimical. And then amongst the devotees, more advanced, peers, less advanced, and then most advanced, so there's degrees and continue. We're enjoined to use our intelligence and respect appropriate for that spiritual position of others. Respect, but appropriate respect according to position. We're enjoined to do that. That's just Madhyamas also. Now, Prahlada and Uttamas. From the Uttama, we can understand things that you and I can't understand. Now, he's in this ecstatic mood, and he's saying something that we may or may not understand. His emphasis is, say it the opposite. Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, is always engaged in service in a humble mood at the feet of the Supreme Lord. It's pure devotion. So what makes, he's analyzing for our benefit, what makes him a recipient of mercy that even the goddess of fortune hasn't received? So is it to say, well, if you become a servant of Lakshmi, you're not going to be as favored by the Lord as if you're the servant of Narada? Narada is doing something that at least in her service to the Lord, Lakshmi doesn't do. He goes here and there, risking everything to give the mercy of the Lord to others. That's especially favored, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. There's no one more dear to me than he. Who? So there's this comparative that we can understand from the Lord's side and from Prahlada Maharaj's side, that he holds especially dear those who engage in this activity. So we just accept. That's what the Lord says. And that's what the devotee of the Lord says. So we're not engaged in this very risky business of comparison. We're honor. The residents of Vrindavan are the superlative best. We're not saying, well, Prahlada's nice. And resident of Vaikuntha, they're pure devotees, that's okay. But we don't do that. The whole of the Bhagavatam is, some people do that. And Prabhupada, warns very strongly again and again and again and again and again and again, don't do that. Doesn't mean we can't understand the residents of Vrindavan are very special. We just don't do the comparison thing of saying, well, okay? So that's the caution. In terms of comparison, our faculty of intellect needs to discern one thing from another, and our mood of respect is for everyone. In the pure devotee category, in a special position, mood of respect, and then those that aren't, respect, and those that respect, proportionate to the position. Not the other kind of comparison. I don't want to associate with you because you're not, on the platform of Prahlada Maharaj, so I'm going to keep my distance from you. Not that. Offensive. Go ahead.
The second point, we talked about the causeless mercy of Narad Muni. And Kayadhu also heard the same instruction.
Yeah.
And we also discussed about the previous position of Prahlada Maharaj.
Yeah.
So this, to me, highlights two things. One is the free will of Kayadhu, because I heard you one time says that Kayadhu forgot everything.
Well, that Prahlada says. Prahlada says it.
Okay. And another thing is, maybe the previous position, along with the causeless mercy of Narada, a previous position, I don't know what Kayadhu's previous
Nor
position is. So that definitely plays a part.
Well, what it is said by Prahlada, and then in the commentary, is due to her attachment to Hiranyakashipu, when Hiranyakashipu came back, due to her attachment to Hiranyakashipu, she forgot what she had heard, and she appreciated it. She forgot by that unwholesome association. Now, when Hiranyakashipu came back, Prahlada didn't forget. He wasn't attached like she was attached. He was respectful, but not attached. Big difference. She was attached. She forgot. Yeah?
That's it. Yeah. Thank you.
We are busy on the ladies' side this morning. Yes?
Maharaj, does motivation of coming towards the Lord have an impact on His mercy?
Yes? Yes. Yes. I mean, He doesn't impose Himself on us. So our eagerness is certainly reciprocated with. He makes Himself more accessible. He doesn't impose Himself, but He reciprocates. So eagerness is important.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. What I understand is like Narad Muni has got many disciples, and each of them have received the causeless mercy of Narad Muni. But then amongst them, there's Prahlada, there's Dhruva. Likewise, Srila Prabhupada too, his Guru Maharaj gives causeless mercy to all his disciples. But what makes Prabhupada very special is like he became a transparent instrument in the hands of his spiritual master.
Who did?
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada, yeah.
Yeah, he became a transparent instrument in the hands of his spiritual master.
Yeah.
So my question is, what is the quality of these special devotees which enables them to receive this causeless mercy to become transparent?
The question you're asking this morning is in different language the same question as yesterday evening. Oh. And the answer is the same. But I'll just say it in other words. Taking the instruction of the spiritual master is one's life and soul. That's the qualification. And that's Baladev Vijayabhusan's teaching from 241 Bhagavad Gita. to expand on that, read, I'm sure you have, but you can go back and read it again because it's a question you're asking last night and again today. Rabindra Swarup's really beautiful essay on founder Acharya, what made Srila Prabhupada so special. I've heard him speak on this point many, many times, that it's the theme is very strong, and every single aspect of what Prabhupada did and said and wrote and contemplated was not imitation, but manifesting in the world his spiritual master's desire. He understood his intention and he manifested it. And because that was his intention, and he, with hardship, he made endeavor to manifest it, it became wonderful. Beyond his expectation, Prabhupada's words. So read that essay, and you'll have an answer.
Thank you.
Guru Maharaj, in life of Dhruva Maharaj, there was Narad Muni was the main person who was instructing him, and then he.
We're speaking of Dhruva, right?
Sorry, Prahlada Maharaj.
Prahlada, okay.
And his entire gratitude was solely directed to Narad Muni, his spiritual master. In my life, and I have heard from you that there are other Vaishnavas that play a very important role in the growth of my spiritual journey, and also there are teachers, like we learn some things from the material world as well, family, friends. So how does the gratitude towards those personalities and those teachings be aligned towards one soul, spiritual master and person?
Well, everything was fine until the language of your question. It's not, the objective is not align things to one person. If there's one person, it's our founder Acharya. That's ISKCON. And other persons aligned to him. But going to, he's the primary Shiksha Guru, and on his mercy we exist. And anyone else that's giving mercy, the list of people that you mentioned, to the degree that it aligns with his mercy, that's where your appreciation and affection and allegiance goes. So go to Chaitanya Charitamrita. There's only one Diksha Guru and multiple Shiksha Gurus. And to the degree that transparency, just like this other question, the transparency of that is, it invites our faith. It's the trustworthiness of that instrument of the principal person. And that's reality. It's not just like, it's a nice answer. It's reality. Now, other persons, those that are family and acquaintances and people that teach us about stuff, say parenting, for example. They're people that have something valuable to teach about parenting or education, the occupation that you have. So the value is in the alignment with our founder Acharya's teachings and the message of Shuddha Bhakti. And so we take something and spiritualize it. But we have to be very careful that we don't become materialized instead of spiritualized. Have to be careful. So therefore the alignment with our founder Acharya. And then others. Okay?
Thank you.
Way in the back.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. If you don't mind, I have two quick questions. First one is on free will and the feature of the Lord, which is Bhakta Vatsala feature. So, unlike us, Jivas, Krishna has infinite free will.
Yes.
So, when he is exhibiting this Bhakta Vatsala feature for the pleasure of his devotees, for satisfying them, is he momentarily sacrificing that infinite free will?
No. Absolutely not. It's totally voluntary. He totally voluntarily places himself at the disposal of his devotee. He doesn't surrender it. He exercises it. Next.
So I was recently in Singapore, Maharaj, and I went to the Hare Krishna temple there. And for the first time, a devotee there explained to me the concept of Ritvik.
Oh, great.
And then I Googled and I found some information.
You probably went to the wrong temple. There's a Ritvik temple, and there's a ISKCON temple. You probably went to the wrong one. You should have checked before you went.
Anyway, Maharaj, so this, in the verse where Prahlada says, how can I leave the service of Narada Muni? So Ritviks, by definition, then cannot approach the Lord, correct? Because they, the I want to be the servant of your servant concept is kind of broken by that
Correct. There's many things to say, and that's one of the many things. I suggest you have a conversation with Advaita Chandra on this, and he'll help you. There's many things. Besides they're wrong, it's offensive. Fundamentally offensive. And they think they're right. But it's fundamentally offensive. So we just keep a distance from those people. I mean, there's many things that's not nice. One of the things to help assert their position is they vilify someone that doesn't accept their position. They're very active. They're very energized, and in some cases, semi-skilled at being offensive, vilifying people that don't accept their position. It's toxic, and Advaita Chandra will help you. Okay. Yes, Marupa.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. The word spiritual can be understood in multiple ways.
Of course.
Like one way is that which pertains to the spirit soul, or that which is conscious, unlike matter which is inert. So when we say that something is spiritualized, obviously we don't mean that something unconscious becomes conscious. But is this the proper understanding of what it means to be spiritualized? Is that which has the potency to bring one close to Krishna?
Yes. It acts, spiritualized in this sense means it acts as a conductor of the internal potency. It becomes spiritualized, or Krishnaized, but Krishnaized doesn't mean it becomes Krishna. It means it acts as an instrument of Krishna, spiritualized. an extension of Krishna's internal potency that helps one in bhakti. The tongue and the ear acts like that, spiritualized, like the internal potency, although it's, otherwise not. Consciousness of Krishna is enhanced by contact with something that's spiritualized.
I have one more question,
Yeah.
if there's. That verse on Prahlad Maharaj glorifying Narad Muni, that how can he give up the service to his spiritual master, has clearly, it is alluding to his wanting to continue that relationship lifetime after lifetime.
Not alluding it, it's explicitly stating it.
So we also understand that the relationship with the spiritual master is eternal.
Prabhupada said,
so now, is there eternality with the spiritual master sort of bi-directional, like...
what's the word?
Bi-directional, going into the past?
Bi-national?
Bi-directional.
By definition.
Bi-directional.
Bi-directional?
Going both,
what does that mean, bi-directional?
Both going into the past as well as into the future. Like in the sense that our relationship with the spiritual master had existed in the past.
Oh.
It exists now and in the future.
Well, I invite you to read, because it's lengthy, the answer is lengthy. I invite you to read Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja offering to Bhaktisiddhanta, where it's titled, or the theme of it is, Guru is One. That's my answer. Read that. So how do we understand this, going forward in time, back in time? It's not like the soul that's eternal existed before this body. It exists in this body, and it continued to exist after this body. That's, in that sense, if that's what you mean by bi-directional. No. The spiritual master-disciple relationship begins and then continues. In that sense, eternal. But, the usual question that goes with this topic is, what's it look like after this lifetime, that relationship? Will I see you in Krishna Loka? Will I recognize you? What's it going to look like? So read that essay.
Thank you very much.
Dvaita Chandra, and behind you.
Guru Maharaj, thank you so much again. It is so uplifting. On this quality of Bhakta Vatsala, I had not quite understood the way you had expressed it today based on the verses. It seems like it's the prime motivating factor for the Lord to act, this particular quality. Is that, or is it?
It's His nature. It's not a motivating factor. It's His nature. It's more than a motivating factor. It's Him.
And so all His actions are driven by this natural.
He's loving. I mean, what's the motivating factor for a mother to love their child? They don't need a motivating factor. Mothers love their child, unless they're crazy. There's people crazy in this world. But natural. It's motherhood. And this is, Godhood. He has affection. It's His nature. And we're over here, we're like, insignificant little speck in some dark place and struggling, and what does He care about a little insignificant speck like me? He's loving. Yeah, but I have bad qualities and bad association and bad karma and all these attachments and stuff. He doesn't care. this is the low self-esteem thing. No, he's loving. He's loving. Even in this condition, he's loving. It's just his nature. That's the message. That's what Prahlada is teaching. How can we be, as son of Hiranyakashipu? Son of Stalin or Hitler or, Donald Trump. When can we become a devotee anyway? Be dear to the Lord.
And earlier my understanding was he protected Lord Brahma's words, which he gave to Hiranyakashipu, the boons.
And Narada's word.
Okay. I didn't realize the second.
It's Vishwanath's disclosure.
No, okay.
I don't know where that passage is in the scripture that says Narada said what he said. But Vishwanath is telling us that's what he said.
So that is amazing. Thank you.
So I want to keep our schedule, and we're already past schedule. It's 10 after. That clock isn't right. So 8, 9 after. So we'll break, and any further questions we'll do later. I'm being asked to remind everybody, stick around for after the afternoon session because the kids are really enthusiastic to hold the drama. And they'll be really disappointed if we're not here. So stick around for the drama. How long is the drama? Do you know? Does anybody know? Half an hour. 20 minutes. Okay. Starts at 12. What if the class is over at 11:30? Everyone's going to disappear. Should I have to keep going until 12? Huh? That would probably be a good idea because I can't predict when the class is going to be over. And I don't think it's going to go 2 hours. That's a long class. You'll all be asleep on the floor if I do that. So it's now, let's do this. It's 10 after, 11 after. I'll see you back at 11 after 10. We'll start at 11 after 10. Then we'll be closer to noon when we finish. Srila Prabhupada ki